Hi folks, you're with today your pushback channel. I'm using a different microphone today, so it may sound a little different, but let's see how we go. But thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the vast, staggering sums of money that are at the easy and quick disposal of pretty much any activist group that is dedicated to aggressively undermining Western white Christian hetero society. Now the resources are just awesome in terms of proportion. Now what sort of got me onto this, not that I had noticed it previously, but the extent of it maybe escaped me. But I noticed a story recently about a lesbian writer, the classic sort of lesbian book writer who is completely devoid of all talent and just screams hatred towards white heterosexual males from word one to the final word in the book, and gets given generous, very well paid publishing book deals to spread this hatred. That's hatred directed squarely at heterosexual white folks. So clearly there's an agenda here. There's no question of that. But what surprised me was one of the books, for example, is lesbian revenge porn, where this imaginary level of oppression that they pretend exists but doesn't, and they can't find it anywhere. They struggle to find even a single example. But they create this fictitious sort of mythical world where they're being oppressed. But anyway, in this book, it's a revenge where it's sort of a fantasy porn stuff where the lesbians go out and kill all the straight white males in society because that's social justice, you understand. Now, something like that, if the reverse were the case, where lesbians being killed or something, it would be international headlines, outrage would be top to bottom. They'd be screaming for blood and that sort of thing. But they're allowed to do it because the targets are straight white males, and that's of course acceptable to murder them. I mean, goodness me, they're all Nazis anyway. Nazis don't deserve legal rights. So anyway, the thing that got me though was there had been a number of parent groups, because they wanted to put this book into libraries, school libraries, and into public libraries. And so a number of people, quite reasonably by the way, had opposed it and had taken it to court to have the book stopped. Now you still buy the book. There's nothing stopping you from buying the book, but should it be in school libraries, and particularly the primary school libraries where children are between 6 and 11 years old, or should it be in public libraries in the children's section, things like that. So that was the purpose of the law. So if you want to buy it online or something, you're free to do that. The argument was purely, should public money be used to buy these books and place them in any educational institution or a public library when it clearly and manifestly spreads hatred against straight white people. So there are a number of lawsuits against this particular book, but somehow this penniless writer was able to fight 5, 6, 7 lawsuits simultaneously over a period of 18 months. Now, some of these going to higher courts and so on. So now I was just adding up, just even if it was bare bones stuff, like absolutely minimal, just a few directions hearings in the court, no full court session, or no days upon days of legal argument or anything. So we're talking absolute budget, and it would have cost somewhere in the region of $220,000 to say $270,000 to run that many legal cases. Now, there's no fee to be involved, so lawyers that may say, like as in a compensation payout, that may take a fee if they win. It's not that. This is raw cost. Now, if there was substantial filing fees, court hearings, that sort of thing, the amount of legal fees would go up almost exponentially from there. So if you're looking at full court hearings, you'd handsomely exceed $500,000 to run that many cases. But somehow this penniless lesbian writer was able to run all these legal cases concurrently. So Now, there's no mention in any of the press articles I could find, at least, whether someone's paying, who is funding this, where's the money coming from? Are they all pro bono lawyers that are doing it? And if so, who's paying them? How are they making enough money to pay their rents and put food on the table and that sort of thing? So clearly someone is funding this and generously funding, and this is only one instance here. Now remember that the people that are funding this are fighting to have this hateful, horrible propaganda put in children's schools. And in the children's section of public libraries, that's the stakes here. They're not fighting for some grand noble cause, far from it. So I did some digging around into some of the other lesbian writers, because the gay doesn't seem to be quite as prominent here, although it is. But the lesbian writers appear to be particularly big in this area. So I looked at these writers, and there's actually a lot of them around. A lot of them running legal cases for one thing or the other, typically so they can have the right to push the propaganda on children, which just surprised me there was that much of it. I had no idea. You think this would be a headline item for the news. Lesbian cabal hates straight white men and schoolboys, and determined to push hateful propaganda. Surely this would be. And again, imagine it's the other way around, where it was. Straight white people talking about anyone else. Yeah, it would in such a way it would be they'd be screaming international headlines. But for some reason this is way under the radar. Nobody's talking about it. And I found that maybe not so surprising given given what's going on these days. But the globalist cabal, or a division or subdivision of the globalist cabal, is obviously funding it. But again, and they're prepared to put vast resources at the disposal of these people. Anything that leads to, or assists, or enables, or furthers the destruction and undermining and the humiliation of straight white Western Christian society, there is bountiful resources placed at the disposal of such purposes. And this is another one. But looking at all the other lesbian writers, also there's backdoor funding here. Now, there's one lesbian writer, she's about 30, I suppose, and she's already had 12 book deals, 12 publishing book deals. So she's come from being a nobody with some bullshit sociology degree in a 10th tier college somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. But suddenly she's a celebrated author. I mean, that's bullshit. And she's even getting stories written about her in prominent leftist-leaning newspapers and magazines and media outlets, as if she's some. There's one here. She's some great literary genius. Now, you can look at some of the stuff online. If you look at it, you go, I've seen 13-year-olds put better work in than that. I mean, it's utter crap. The only thing it does is propose that everyone should hate straight white Christian males. I mean, that's about all it does. And so happily the globalists will definitely fund and support that. But looking at the funding there now just a few books that you can see there. Her book sales, like she's number 50,000 or something on the. So clearly the books don't sell, and really she's relying on globalist funded front organisations, NGOs, globalist funded trade unions to just buy up the first 5,000 print run. Maybe leave a few hundred, and I doubt if even more than a few hundred are sold. Then the unions or the NGOs then donate those books to the libraries in what clearly is a coordinated effort. So the libraries don't have to get approval to buy the books, because then they'd have to go through some sort of approval scrutiny process. So they then donate it to the libraries, then consider it was just a donation from a member of the public. So clearly it's a scam, and one that's being perpetrated all across the Western world. But what surprised me, say with the first author, a book that sells for, I don't know, let's say $20, for example. Now, first book author, you'd be lucky to get 5%. Maybe if the publishing company loves you dearly, you get 10%. So at best, the author would get a $10,000 commission, writer's commission on the book, assuming 5,000 sold. So over a period of 5 or 6 years or so, that means this person would have got 12 book deals, would have got, say, $120,000, so they're hardly rich. However, what seems to be happening, as best I can tell, for these propagandist lesbian writers, or any propagandist, it could be race, it could be gender, it could be whatever issues, but again, these propagandists, they're being paid the most generous commissions imaginable. In fact, their commissions seem to exceed the gross sales of the book. So the book, even if it sold at full price, would be getting $100,000 in sales. It seems these authors are being paid even more than the gross sales of the book. So clearly, again, this is a scam designed to richly reward people who are prepared to spread hatred against straight white Christian males. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.